Hello, so I'm sure many of you remember this. It's my Finnish M39 gas mask, or Folkgasmask 39, depending on if you're using the Finnish name for it, I guess, or the Swedish name. And it is this mask here that was the Finnish civilian mask of World War II. Whether or not the military also use this mask to some extent, I don't know. Now, obviously, the original filter for this is very long since expired and will be full of asbestos. However, during a video the other day, where this mask happened to be in the video, when I was looking at my Swedish and Finnish gas masks, I somehow discovered that Polish normalised filters actually screw into this thing. Because as far as I'm aware, this is obviously not 40mm NATO, because this is made in 1939, you know, the late 30s, early 40s these. 40mm NATO had not been standardised or normalised by this point, so you know, it was every country normally had their own proprietary kind of filters. Now, because this is so similar to the VM37 and a couple of the other Baltic masks were, I imagine this uses the same sort of type filter as Germany used in World War II, at least in terms of screw thread. And as far as I'm aware, that filter again isn't 40mm NATO, it's very close to it, but again, a bit like how GOST and NATO aren't the same, I don't think they're quite the same thing. However, I put this on with the Polish normalised filter, the one prior to the FP5, but they should both work. And it turns out that the mask worked. It actually worked. A mask from, I think this one's either dated 1938 or 1939. Yeah, I think that's the date there, the 1939 one there. So, this is a mask made in 1939. This is what I want to get over, you know, across in this video, that we're going to give it a proper test in a minute, but made in 1939, so obviously you think that's, what, like, almost 80 years ago. Not quite, because, you know, we're in 2018 at the moment, not 2019, but, you know, about 80 years old, this mask, and it still seems to work, so. Let me get a filter for it. I'll tell you what we'll quickly do. I'll quickly test if a NATO filter or an RD40 filter does screw into it. I mean, I'm not going to do an airtight test of that, but... Right, my Scott filter seems to screw in really well, but there does seem to be a bit of wobble between the filter and the thing. So again, I don't think that would be airtight, but it might be because where you've got that rubber washer there, because the filter screws in enough to push against the washer with that bit, because people have asked me about this before, then yes, it makes an airtight seal. The problem is with most GOST masks is when you get NATO filters, they don't screw in well enough to sit flush against that sort of O-ring. So, when we use this one, it's a bit tighter in. It goes all the way to the end, and it's flush against there. So let's put the mask on. This mask has a really interesting smell to it as well, and the exhale valve's a bit funny on this mask, but yeah, it seems to pressurise. So you know what I'm going to do now? Right, so as you can see, I've got the mask on in here. Let's spray some air freshener and see if it works still. Mask nearly 80 years old. Well, I'm pleased to say I can smell absolutely nothing. As far as I'm aware, the mask is working perfectly. A mask that's nearly 80 years old. A 100% obsolete mask is still working with a modern filter on it. And this filter's still, you know, quite out of date and everything else, but regardless, this is incredible. This mask is surprisingly comfortable as well. It's very similar to a GP5, you know, any of the helmet hood style masks. But this is better than the German VM37 simply for the reason that rather than having a flapper valve type exhale thing,
It actually has kind of a proper exhale valve that seems to also, work. So I guess it's got bake light here. Sorry, underneath there. I guess that's all bake light, the assembly there. Because it doesn't have that asbestos looking stuff in it like my VM37, VM42. Okay, so I'll give this another minute or so, but I can't smell anything, so it seems to be working. Field of view isn't awful. If it sat slightly closer to my eyes, it would be better. Let me see if I can just adjust that. It's a little bit better, but it's still not amazing. But yeah, again, it's a civilian mask designed for civilians, not, really a military mask or anything. But yeah, amazingly, it seems to be working with this Polish filter on it. It seems that the normalised thread allows it to go in well enough that it will actually seat properly with the top of the sort of O-ring that's on the inside. And therefore we have a working respirator despite it being 79 years old. Absolutely amazing. So I think that's been long enough now. Let me just break the seal with the mask on the side. Yeah, I can smell that straight away. And again, I can't smell it. So the mask works, the mask works, the mask works. So what have we learnt from this video? A very similar thing that I said to the video about the British light anti-gas respirator I had from 1944 that still worked, is that masks don't simply stop working as soon as they are like 5 or 10 years or whatever after their production date. The shelf life on a mask is just a recommendation. This thing is nearly 80 years old and it still works. It's amazing. And again, why? Because it's very simple. It's a rubber hood with probably glass eyepieces on there and some sort of bakelite valve which has an intake and an exhale valve on it. So let's get this filter off now and I'll start smelling the air freshener again. Yeah, I can smell that now, but there you go, there's your intake valve and there's your exhale valve, and it's all very simple and efficient.